Guys, thanks for joining me again today. I wanted to let you guys know that I did go back and look at the last video, and it was a little longer than I had hoped it would be. And so I wanted to, this time, instead of talking about the 4 points that I really want to share with you guys, I think I want to just give you the first point and break these up into separate videos so I'm not taking too much of your guys' day each day. And so just for a little bit of review for anybody who missed my message yesterday, I am talking to you guys about wilderness and quarantine. And this was just put on my heart as we started kind of dealing with these stay-at-home orders and quarantine, and the new normal for us in this time, and kind of how it correlates with the story in the Bible of the temptation of Jesus in his 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. And so we've covered a little bit about the word wilderness and how it, in the New Testament, the word that's given for it, it means an isolated place, solitary, lonely, desolate, and uninhabited by others. And we've talked about the word quarantine and how it literally translates to 40 days. And so I want to just keep going with our message. And the first point and topic I want to talk to you guys about, which is the only topic I'll go over today, is the words that just kept coming to me as I was studying quarantine and wilderness. I just kept hearing the words led, not lost. And so in that, what I want to talk to you guys about is that we're not lost in the wilderness. Even in the Bible, and as much as I really want to focus on the story of Jesus in the wilderness, I do want to go back a little bit into the Old Testament and talk about Moses. And even in that story, in Exodus 13:21, we see that Moses and the Israelites were led by God, that he went ahead of them as a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire to give them light at night. And so they were being led through the wilderness, even though they were wandering, even though that we know that they spent 40 years and 40 nights there. They weren't just wandering lost, not knowing where to go or what they were facing. They knew, and they could actually, in a literal sense, see God leading them through the wilderness. And I think that's so important to understand. We also see, like I said last time, or I don't remember if I covered it last time, but in the book of Matthew, we see 4:1 says, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted there by the devil." And so again, we're watching Jesus be led by the Spirit. So that's a little more of a spiritual sense than a physical sense, but we're seeing both things in each of these stories. And so I just want to talk about that for a second and make sure that we understand that we didn't happen here by mistake. We didn't do something wrong and get punished with this. We didn't end up here because we misstepped or we did something else. We were led here. Whether we see it right now or not, we've been led into the wilderness by God. He's not leaving us here alone. We're not here by mistake. This is not punishment. He has not forsaken us. But sometimes we need to be brought to a place that we're reminded that we have to completely depend on Him, that we need Him. And sometimes if we're not brought into the wilderness, we forget that. And so I did mention last time that we see in the Bible where Luke says Jesus often withdrew into the wilderness for prayer. And I think that's a perfect example of why we're in the wilderness, right? We need to be praying. We need to be relying on God. And if we're in this wilderness feeling punished and pouting and, kind of just moping around, stomping our feet, being mad that we're here, we're missing the purpose of it. And it's so important to understand that we've been led here by God for a reason. We are here to remember that we need Him, that we have to depend on Him and to be praying to Him. And we know multiple times that the Bible references that God will provide, right? It's referenced in Matthew, it's referenced in Proverbs, it's referenced in Luke. And so I think that's the important thing to understand as well, is that in this wilderness, He will reveal His provision for us. He will reveal how He's going to provide for us. I'm already hearing so many great stories that I'm not going to share because they're not ours to share, but I'm hearing so many great stories of families that are finding provision and getting things through this wilderness that we're in right now, that are providing for them in ways that they didn't see coming, that they didn't know would happen. There was no reason these things happened, but they found provision during these times. And so I think it's really important to understand that God will provide, and he will reveal that provision during this wilderness once we realize that we have to rely on him, and that we need to find him in this place. We see that in the Old Testament as well, right? The Israelites were provided for, the manna, the quail, the things that God provided for them. Elijah was fed before his journey as well. And then as soon as Jesus is done being tempted for the 40 days and 40 nights, we see the angels come and take care of him. And so in each of those instances in the wilderness, the 3 stories that we're choosing to focus on, we're seeing that they're being provided for. There was food for the Israelites. There was food and rest for Elijah. And then the angels came and cared for Jesus. And so I think that's just really important to understand, that we were led here. We're not lost here. This is not punishment. This is not something that we found ourselves, some place that we found ourselves by mistake, and that God is going to provide here for us. And we just need to find ourselves depending on him and relying on him and being in prayer with him, and that provision will come. So I hope that helps you guys today. I will come back tomorrow with my second point. Thanks. Bye.